Rome, come, my friends, the Ents are going to war. It is likely they go to their doom, but their business is with the Tower of Hoeth this night, with rock and stone. Only this time, it's not the Elves protecting their magical spire, it's an entire army of ninja rats. I've told you guys before, never go full tree, but what if your opponent goes full Clan Eshin? We've got two super thematic lists here, ready to do battle near the inner shores of Ulthuan, so let's see what happens when Teenage Mutant Ninja Ratmen face down the last march of the Ents. You might be wondering, where the hell is this army of trees? The Eagles are coming, but the Ents are nowhere to be seen. Well, the Twisted and the Twilight gave almost every Forest Spirit Vanguard deployment. You can imagine the hilarity that ensues when both armies have full Vanguard shenanigans up their sleeve. The opening stages of this battle are messy to say the least. Eshin Triads starting out in a nice flank position, but completely cut off from the rest of the Skaven, and maybe a bit too close for comfort when they're staring down every tree spirit you can think of besides Durthu or a branch wraith. They're all ready to roll, including the Wraiths of the Frozen Heart and Firebark Elders, and they're led by a tree man of the Lore of Life, equipped with a Scroll of Shielding for that ward save, Earthblood, Awakening of the Wood, and Dwellers Below. So, as is often the case with the few matches where you happen to stumble on top of each other right at the start, it's going to be a mad scramble to make sense of what the hell is going on here, where everything is, and pick and choose the right engagements when you can't even see the vast majority of the enemy force. Death Runners are sprinting in from every single direction, and the only thing not Eshin themed are the Lords and Heroes. Throughout the Unclean and a Packmaster, equipped with a Shot Caller, and running with the pack, while the Master Mutator of Clan Molder has his Rat Ogre Summon and Creature Killer for taming the trees and cutting them down to size with that 16 bonus versus large in an AoE. Brood Horrors are good versus trees because they can run circles around them, but if they get tied down by the Firebark Elders, they will get their asses beat because of their weakness to flame. So that makes the battle plan pretty straightforward for the Molder theme units anyway. Do not let your Brood Horrors get surrounded by Treekin and spanked by Treemen. If you can avoid that, make good use of Creature Killer and Shot Caller, should be able to pick and choose those moments when the Treemen are isolated and slowly chip away at all that hardened bark. However, for the Eshin units, at least these opening stages will be an uphill struggle. Fighting in the woods against trees is not highly recommended, I would say, but there isn't much of a choice at the moment. Right now, it's a fight for survival and a mad scramble to get out of the forest and back onto the open plain, which is where the Gutter Runners can actually make use of their shurikens. Now, Death Runners don't really like this kind of fight either. They're kind of like Slayers in that you really want them to be up against specialized, expensive targets. If they're up against run-of-the-mill infantry like Dryads, they actually don't perform particularly well. They can certainly win those kind of fights, but they aren't trading cost effectively, and the Wraiths of the Frozen Heart certainly have enough punching power to make those Death Runners suffer. And not to mention the physical resistance and dodge chance of Eshin troops will be mostly ignored by the magical attacks of all these forest spirits. Triads already broke away from the pack, Death Runners got dunked on by Dryads and Treekin, and you can really feel that low HP pool when physical resist isn't doing its job. Not a lot of staying power on this game inside, but that's just the opening stages, right? I don't think anyone should expect a stealth army to hold up well when their stealth fails as soon as the battle starts. They rolled a 1 at the beginning, now it's about how they respond. And the best response at the moment is get the hell out of that tree line, get some space, do some skirmishing, and get some regen back on your Packmaster and on the Unclean. But the Wood Elves, well rather the Tree Spirits of Athel-Loren, aren't looking to give the Skaven any kind of space. Unfortunately, they don't really have much maneuverability either. They have the 2 Great Eagles overhead. The Eagles are indeed coming, but other than that, the rest of their troops are quite slow and definitely cannot catch up to the majority of Eshin troops, and certainly none of those Brood Horrors either. So, fighting on the open plain might be an exercise in frustration for the Forest Spirits of Athel-Loren. The Wraiths of the Frozen Heart just discovered Vistron's Death Squad and realized, oh my god, that might be a terrible fight for us to take. They're moving backwards, retreating behind the safety of their own Dryad line. Let some of the cheaper troops take that engagement first, then they can come in from the flank, imbue them with Frostbite, and prevent them from escaping. Or you could just sacrifice a Dryad to get rid of them by setting up some kind of alley-oop, say a Dwellers Below. You're getting kind of blobbed up there, might be a good time for a spell while the Race of the Frozen Heart move around the flank and think about engaging. They won't though. Dwellers Below will come instead, and that is one drunk-ass looking ancient tree man wobbling around, super dramatic-like, showing off his skills from theater class, and he's got some gnarly vines to share with the world. Dwellers Below unleashed, and the AoE bug will rear its ugly head here. Death Runners are outside the radius of the spell, clearly, but will continue taking damage past about twice the distance of where they should be. So honestly, definitely dodge there. They simply do not have the HP pool to take a spell like that, and now surrounded by the Dryad ROR, icy branches closing around their throats, it's good night, sweet prince for a rather expensive elite unit. Watch this HP bar drop. Clearly outside the radius, only a couple models still remaining inside. Fully outside now, still taking damage, and they'll go from about 2,500 HP down to 1,300 quite quickly. And now the unit is straight up deleted and surrounded by Dryads, and it's over for them in seconds. Painful loss for the Skaven, but ultimately the Death Runners are the least important unit on the field for the Skaven right now. They were simply not going to perform well against Dryads, Treekin, or Tree Men, so you sack them, you get whatever damage value you can out of them, but realize that it is going to be up to your Gutter Runners, your Eshin Triads, and most importantly, the Packmaster and Throt the Unclean to carry this battle. Now, super nice play here. Ishka's Triads dropping down their Doppelganger summon, and I legit thought that was real. I thought that was the official unit. Thought that was the real one. So I get a full surround off on it. I'm like, if I kill them, if these halberds die, it's over. I somehow did not see the transition where they were summoned, and they're gonna hold up an entire section of my battle line for quite a long time as I'm saying, yeah, I'm gonna stick in that fight all day, baby. Like, that's super worth it for me. Over on this side, though, the Great Eagles are doing exactly what they are supposed to do, using their high maneuverability to get into the back line and shut down all those shuriken plays. If they can rout off those Gutter Runners and prevent them from firing into my single entities, particularly the Tree Men, in a late game situation, I should be in very good shape, because Brood Horrors don't want to stay in the pocket when they're fighting against a Tree Man or an Ancient Tree Man in those kind of situations. The only time they really feel comfortable with that is if there are 3 or 4 Gutter Runners throwing their Ninja Stars into the fight as well, and when Shot Caller and Creature Killer are activated. They do have some nice steroid buffs that allow them to chunk through large targets pretty quickly if they're allowed to cycle charge and disengage, re-engage at their own whim. So Shuriken still being thrown in. Ancient Tree Man perhaps in a bit of a precarious position here. 2 Brood Horrors munching on his booty at the moment, and Ninja Stars are being thrown his way. Great Eagle coming in from the flank. Both of them have dropped pretty low. They are susceptible to the focus fire from these Gutter Runners for sure. They do not have a lot of armor. One in the background going after the mage, and in quick succession, 2 attacks landed and almost killing off that Plague Priest, which should mean no more summons. It is absolutely worth losing your Great Eagle over. Kill off the caster, kill off the summons, kill off the magical support, and you're going to be that much closer to taking this battlefield from the Thagaraki. Great Eagle getting some good cycle charges in, and the Packmaster is dropping very low, but the Ancient Tree Man is isolated, and this is one of the biggest issues with the full Last March of the Ents type build. They're slow. If they're on one side of the battlefield and they have to get over to the other side to support their lord, they will not be able to do that quickly, and meanwhile the Skaven can throw body after body in their way and just prevent them from moving for a while, stuff them up, and slow their progress even further. Plague Monk summon in the back, being absolutely shish kebabbed by a Tree Man. That should be fun to watch, and that summon should crumble out just about any moment now, I would think. They're not on the field for very long. One more smack from the vines, and yes indeed, the Plague Monks will disappear. So the Wood Elves, for their part, they need to blob up. This is what the build is kind of all about. There's only so many ways to play the Tree Blob build. You basically go in with everything, you force your opponent to get that surround off, and then you hope you can survive and weather the storm. Can they weather the storm against this many Eshin troops? I guess we'll find out here. Ancient Tree Man has dropped perilously low, but he does have a lot of help. He had to pop his Scroll of Shielding for that 20% ward save, and he might be able to get a few more Earthbloods off, but he did forgo regrowth in this battle, so no burst healing for any of the Tree Men, and that could end up being a problem when you're talking about single entities against someone who has just amazing stats, honestly. Throt the Unclean is a beast of a lord on top of that Brood Horror, and he can always pick and choose his fights, which is an incredibly important trait to have in Warhammer 2 battles. Tons of regen, tons of healing, tons of mobility, tons of mass. You can see he's beaten up that Ancient Tree Man quite badly, and now even with the Great Eagle attacking from behind, Throt can stay in the pocket, pretty much finish him off, and then move away, maybe kill off that Great Eagle too. So Throt is by far the biggest issue the tree forces have to face at the moment, and if he continues his rampage, it could be the actual march of the Ents, because they won't have any more healing if that Ancient Tree Man goes down. I mean, both the other tree men are quite healthy at the moment. They're almost full HP, so don't get me wrong. Throt the Unclean and the Packmaster have a lot of work to do, but this decapitating blow is an important one. And he might force this last march of the Ents at some point if he's able to keep it up. So the thing he has to avoid is getting surrounded by tree kin. Thankfully, there aren't very many of them left. If you're on the Skaven side, you're kind of breathing a sigh of relief that most of them have routed off, and their leadership doesn't appear to be holding up particularly well. But you just lost your Packmaster. He's shattered and will not be returning. The best way to win this battle now is get the full surround off with the Gutter Runners, force them to go in, and then get rear charges and flank charges with the Brood Horror. The Treekin can still rout. They can still get terror routed, and if he gets rid of the Firebark Elders, which are probably the most dangerous unit on the field for Throt, not just in terms of their DPS, but the fact that they have so much mass and can actually surround where the tree men can't. If he's able to break them off from the box and chase them to the edges of the map, leaving those tree men isolated, then the Skaven are certainly back in business. The Bondsmore is heavily in favor of the Wood Elves at the moment, but it's a bit misleading because the tree men, they can't force Throt the Unclean to come in and engage them. He can worry about everything else, and he can run circles around them easily, as he's doing now. And he's healing too. That healing factor cannot be overstated. He has not used Remoldered on himself. He's still got about 1,200 left on his own healing cap, which is gigantic. I mean, that effectively doubles his remaining HP pool. So Treemen have to punch him a lot of times to get him off the field. Ishka's Triads, this is the illusion. This is not the actual unit. I believe the actual unit has already routed off and might have already shattered. They're attacking. Normally, this would be amazing. They would kill this Firebark Elder model in like a second flat with that many Guando poisonous ones just slicing into its flank. But, yeah, there's no blood here because they aren't real. How can Eshin troops be real if our eyes aren't real? Realize, realize, real lies. Think about it. I'm just saying, look into it, okay? Look into it. Now, Throt, you're in the wrong neighborhood, mother trucker. This is dangerous. Finding a tree man with the Firebark Elders nearby. Yeah, Ishka's Triads are shattered off in the background. Gunner Runners are chasing the Treekin off the map, though, so they'll be able to come back. And the Firebark Elders look like they're about to rout, too. They have the full surround off. If they can manage to stay in the pocket for a little bit longer, Throt will die for sure. But they routed. They're gone. And there's no way for the Wood Elves to make them come back now, because the Firebark Elders, I believe, are immunopsychology, whereas... Actually, I can't even remember if regular Treekin are immunopsych or not. I know that the Firebark Elders are immunopsychology, but Throt can run them down now. And they've broken off. Treeman can't catch up, so Throt can take his time here, get a bunch of health back with his regen, and hound them to the edges of the map. Oh, there are more Gunner Runners coming in from the other flank, too. Huge, huge win for Clan Molder and Clan Eshin. More Gunner Runners returning, and that will leave the Treemen by themselves to carry this battle one way or the other. Their fires are being extinguished. Throt the Unclean is beasting it up at the moment. Gunner Runners coming in from behind, and this might be a good opportunity for Throt to go in now. The Treeman is surrounded by the Gunner Runners and facing the other flank. Zero melee defense when you're attacking from the rear like that, but then he's going to expose his own flank. And you know what? That Corrosive Vomit might not help you against this much HP. He's getting slapped around right now. And ultimately, I'm not sure Throt is going to have enough killing power to get through 2 full units of tree men. He's doing what he can with the cycle charges, but the terror is beginning to set in for Clan Eshin, and 1 or 2 more attacks will probably send it over army losses. Yes, indeed. That will be your game. The cheesy tree man build, making like a forest and leaving, barking out orders to kill the Skaven. 2,400 damage value on one, 1,600 on the ancient tree man. I was pretty happy with how those trees worked out. Now, this is not a particularly, I mean, clearly this was not a try-hard game. We even had unit caps off for it. This was just for fun. We didn't actually know what each other's builds were going to be going into this battle. We just said, hey, we're bringing thematic lists. In a normal ranked match, you would not be allowed to bring 3 tree men. You'd only be able to field 2 of them. So it'd be ancient tree man and maybe 1 more tree man on top of that. You couldn't bring 3, but like I said, wanted to go for thematics here. And I mean, 3 tree men, like if you're going for a last March of the Ents type build, that's what you want to have. So the treekin did what they needed to do. They held the line admirably for me until maybe the late stages of that battle. The dryads were quite good at killing off Death Runners, which I was a little bit surprised about, but obviously the big factors there for the Skaven were the Brood Horrors, which just have so much cycle charging potential, and with Creature Killer activated, they were a legit threat to my Lord and the rest of my tree men. So, GG, hope you guys enjoyed it, and plenty more content coming soon. I'll see you next time. Peace out.